Guess who's back, folks? It's me. And this is a happy yet sad day because the last episode of season 2, House of the Dragons, is tonight. And I just want to do a little preview video of how I've taken this season 2. Now, season 1 was a good season, and I appreciated them continuing to use the Game of Thrones theme music, opening theme music. It just, like I said, it already put you in that mood of where you were going to. I like that. As far as the first season, one thing that I'll definitely remember is how squeamish I got at some points. Now in Game of Thrones, man, it was head cutting off and all kind of stuff. But I can't remember a time where I was really squeamish, unless I saw two dudes doing weird stuff. I'd rather just fast forward through that part. But other than that, none of this blood and gore ever had my stomach tight for the most part. But man, I'm gonna tell you this. In House of the Dragon, it's been a little different. I've gotten parts to where I've been quite squeamish. King Jaehaerys, I hope I got that name right. Man, his deterioration was terrible. And I actually think he deteriorated a little too much before he died. Man, you already look dead. But that was a little squeamish. But really what made my stomach tight is the births. When his wife died and they cut her open and she was yelling, man, and the sounds, man, it had my stomach tight to where on watching it again, I just tried to grit my teeth and make it through it. I would kind of, let me forward through this. Also, when Rhaenyra was having her child that was born, stillborn or whatever, that she's standing around there, man, it had me just squeamish and my stomach tight. But other than that, I'm trying to think of another time to where it was like that. I haven't been. We've seen people get burnt. Dragon. Oh yeah. How could I forget? What is his name? Not Damon. Aegon. When he came back from getting torched by his brother, and they were peeling that Valyrian steel armor off of him and his skin. That had me, man, and him, ooh, man, that had me, it had my stomach tight. And when they put his knee back together, that had me tight in the stomach. And then when the Maester and Larys had the audacity to try to have this guy trying to walk around and him screaming in pain. Hey man, it's just the sound of pain that gets me. Not the actual sight necessarily, but the sound of pain. It was hard to get through. But man, we've had some good episodes, and I believe on an average I've given these the whole season. Man, I'm a hard voter. I'm on rater on anything I watch, and I kind of grade them by how far of stuff that I have to ignore. If I have to ignore a lot of things to make this believable, the less that I have to ignore to make believable, the better. We all know it's fantasy. But one instance is when Rhaenyra, after they've closed the city, she sneaks into the city. This is the queen. They're at war. If you get caught, you're dead. But she chose to go over there and She didn't even have a disguise on. She just had on different clothes. You know what I mean? The time that Rhaenyra and Aemon went down into the city in the first season, silver hair hanging all around and out of their. But to tell the truth, I shouldn't get on them about that because Damon had been going down there to the brothels all the time, so they well knew about him. But it was just strange that, man, you down here, you're the queen, the upcoming queen, and you're down here walking around as a peasant and in the brothels with your head, boy, Damon really put her out there. One thing that I've also noticed is a lot of this turmoil has come from basically loose women. She has some legitimate children with her brother, Rhaenyra I'm talking about, but she's got 3 bastards. And I don't know how in the world that her and the Valerian she married, Corlys's son, could not have a baby. Hey, I know you like men, but dude, you need to put a seed in this woman. How can you allow your wife to get impregnated? Now, she wants to hump a dude, but she needs to be taking a lot of that special juice like Allison ended up having to take. Allison in the first season, Laris has you showing your feet, and I knew that was, ugh. Well, I was thinking, man, that might go a little further, and won't that be weird? But okay, you're showing your feet for information. And now, lame Anakin Skywalker, Kristen Cole, just a simp. If you don't know what a simp is, look it up in the Urban Dictionary. It'll tell you what a simp is. Just a weak dude who blows in the wind when it comes to the female. And they're trying to make him a sympathetic person now. No, I have no sympathy for you, Kristen Cole. When you die, it'll be a great day as far as I'm concerned, because you're trash. And you put me in a very weak and bad light. But man, as far as this second season, it has been good. I'm glad that they came out with the House of the Dragon. Why did I keep saying hand? The House of the Dragon. This last episode 8, man, I hope it's at least an hour and 30 minutes. An hour just isn't going to get it done. And who knows how long they're going to take to make the third season. But things are going along nicely. The CGI of the dragons has been, for the most part, very believable. So, man, what else can I say, man? It's been enjoyable. I hate that it's going to end tonight, but as I've always done, until the third season starts, I'll be watching the first 2 seasons over and over. I may even go back to Game of Thrones and watch a little bit of that. But folks, I'm going to tell you, by the time I watch Game of Thrones, man, I could almost do the dialogue along with the actors. I've seen that so much. I hate to get off of the subject and go to Game of Thrones, but I'll say again, when Game of Thrones started, my friend was telling me about it. He was telling me about it. And as soon as he said something about some dragons, I was like, man, no, that's not my thing. This fantasy and wizard and dragon stuff. So, man, he had to tell me about this for daggone near 3 years. He gave me a DVD with the first season on it. I never watched it. I just didn't. And every once in a while, he'd come back and say it. And by that 3rd year, he was like, man, he might have been at the house, and I brought out this CD, and I was like, look. He was like, man, you haven't watched that yet. I was like, no, man. And so finally he said, like, man, this is a good show. You need to watch it. This was 3 seasons in. So I stuck it in and I started watching it. And by the time the end of that first season and that first episode of Game of Thrones was over, there's no way I'm not watching. So basically, what happened is in a good week to 2 week time, if it took that long, folks, I had caught up. And then me and my lady, that was our Sunday thing to do. We'd go in there and we'd watch Game of Thrones. And the funny thing is, I watched all this stuff. I think I watched the first season by myself before I even mentioned it to my lady. But the strange thing about it is, I enjoyed it just as much watching it with her again, knowing what was going to happen. No, I wasn't over there, man, you're going to like this. Hey, man, watch this coming up. No, I keep my mouth shut. I don't make any weird movements like something's coming up. That's just not me, folks. I let her enjoy it. And she was hooked. It was like, hey, man, you want to watch one more before we quit? So, man, looking back on that, that was a pretty cool time for me and her. We're not together no more. We broken up maybe 10, 12 years ago now. But we really connected at the times when we were watching this show. And like I said, we ran through that show like that, and we would sit around like, when's the next season coming out? Now, I will say, I knew nothing of Game of Thrones lore and how broad this story was, but later on, the show being so good, I went and I didn't read the books, man. Never have. Man, I can't. I could read 1,000-page book, but I'd rather it be broken down into video. I will say that I did know that they were running out of source material. I did know that the by the fifth season, I think they were out of source material, so these guys had to take it over on their own. And one thing I was kind of sad about that, because that's not gonna go well. I just knew it wasn't. But they did hang on for maybe two more seasons. 5 and 6 were good. And man, I'm gonna tell you, I watched the whole thing, and we can get into the mess they made in the last season. We can get into it, and it was. But did I stop watching it until it ended? No, I watched it all the way through. Did it end well? Let's not fool ourselves. They really hacked that up. So what I'm expecting is they won't make that same mistake again with House of the Dragon. What else can I say? Hopefully they won't. I think these books are finished, being that it was a prequel before Game of Thrones. Now, I'm going to tell you one thing that I was disappointed in. I was disappointed in all you heard about was blood and cheese, blood and cheese. Am I saying that right? Blood and cheese. These two characters that they were looking for, two characters to play this. I just think they were over just like this. They had no really build up to blood and cheese. And they were there that first episode of the second season, and they were gone. So that kind of bummed me out a little bit. I think they could slow down a little bit, but I think they just want to keep you engaged. And you should be able to keep me engaged. If the book can keep me engaged, then you should be able to keep me engaged and still not go too fast. But man, other than that, I'm pretty happy with the show. It might seem low, but I would give this season so far, I think on average, it's probably going to be a 7 or a 7.5 to how I've graded this season, episode to episode. I did have one episode that pissed me off that I gave a 5, and maybe I shouldn't have, but they pissed me off with how they went with Rhaenyra and Lady Massaria. It just ticked me off, and I didn't think they had to do it that way. So I think I gave it a 6 or a 5, which maybe I should not have done that, but I did. And thank goodness they haven't gone that way so far in the aftermath and the latter shows. So man, I'm not gonna talk you to death. This is just me going over and being glad to see this episode. I'm always gonna be glad for a new episode. But the sad one is no more new episodes for goodness knows how long, folks. You know how Game of Thrones and this George R.R. Martin stuff is gone. They take at least a year before you gonna see another one. But as old as I am, it's like years go like this. It's crazy. So, but yeah, man, I've enjoyed this season. I've enjoyed the actors. One of the actors that I was sad to see go, of course, was Lady Rhaenys, or Princess Rhaenys. One of the things that I do know is Lord Corlys, in my opinion, drove her to do what she did and get herself killed. She should have taken out Aemon like she did, and she should have left and went back. But Corlys, his even in the first season, him and Daemon, you remember sitting at oh God, I can't remember, sitting at Corlys's place discussing going into the Stepstones against the Triarchy. He's always thought that he hasn't gotten his just due, his family and including his wife Rhaenys. And he just kept on and kept on. And he just didn't stop. And she was always trying to, to reel him back in. And with their last conversation, she knew that she wasn't going to be able to reel him back in. He was always going to be more willing to go to war to try to get some type of what's the word I'm trying to use? He wasn't happy being at home and taking care of family. He was happier to go out and try and get some glory that he and his family had missed out on. And I think Rhaenys really got to the end of her rope on that. And subsequently, she died a horrible death of being crushed by a dragon. And matter of fact, it wasn't instantaneous. She had at least 10 to 12 seconds to realize, yep, I'm falling out of the air. There's nothing I can do. And I'm going to get smashed by my own dragon. So that was sad. I'm trying to think of another time that I have been sad for anybody on this show. I haven't been sad for Rhaenyra. I haven't been sad for Alicent. I just think they're just the worst of worst as far as quote unquote ladies go. So whatever's gonna happen, I think Daemon is finally getting out of Harrenhal, which is good because he's been there a long time and all he's been doing is bugging out. Now I do like Alice, the witch or whatever she is, trapped inside of an owl or whoever she. I kind of like her, or for some reason. But I'm trying to think of someone who I truly like I did in Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, right off the bat, I had people that I liked. Tyrion, number 1. Number 2, Arya. Jon Snow, yeah, okay, he was cool, but my favorites were Tyrion and Arya. And one of the things about Arya that I didn't like about the 8th season, see, they were pulling out all kind of dumb crap in the 8th season. I watched this kid grow up. When this show started, she had to be maybe 10 or 12 at the most. And in the 8th season, I have to see her taking off her clothes. It felt kind of wrong. They didn't have to do that. They could, I don't know. But it was just, hey, man, they were trying any old weird thing. And that's one of the things I did not appreciate. Man, I watched this girl grow up. Now I gotta see her butt naked. It just felt weird. But anyway, folks, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about this has been a good show. I like how they switched the intro into the tapestry from the first season, because to be quite honest, I couldn't follow the first season, all the blood going here. I couldn't follow it. And to be honest, it's hard to follow the tapestry also, but I like it better and that they changed it. And I hope they continue and do the same thing in the third season. But like I said, man, it's a sad day. It's always going to be a happy day on Sunday when I know a new episode of House of the Dragon is coming on. But this one is bittersweet, because after this, you better find something else to watch. That's what you better find out else to watch. So I'm going to let you go, but I want to mention one more thing. I'm 54, as you guys always know. So back in the 70s, maybe 78, somewhere around there, I'm 8 years old, Battlestar Galactica came out with Lauren Green and playing Adama, and I forgot who played. Well, I forgot all the names of the characters, really their real names, but you had Starbuck, which was a male. You had Colonel Ty, which was played by a black guy. And who else? You had Apollo, which was played by a guy. And you had Baltar, which was the traitor against the humans who helped the Cylons overtake the 12 colonies, which basically were 12 planets. And it was good. It was something good to watch a space show when I was a kid. And back in, I think it was the early 2000s, they remade Battlestar Galactica. And me and my boy, we used to play a lot of video games. So he used to come over. We'd play golf or something, Tiger Woods golf. Or what else would we play? Maybe Gran Turismo. And then we'd watch Battlestar Galactica. We were both into it. And it took a different approach. But man, let me be very honest. That is one of the best shows that I watched. In this one, Edward James Olmos is playing Adama. Colonel Ty is white now. The president of the colonies, I think, is Mary O'Donnell or McDonald. You've got Starsky. No, not Starsky. What are you talking about? Starbuck is a woman this time, played by Katie something, I think. And then you had, oh man, it was just a good remake. And let me tell you something. As far as it ending, it only lasted 4 years. But man, it was very well written. It was very well remade, and the ending, it wasn't like Game of Thrones did. The ending was just about perfect. It was just, it was a perfect ending to it. It ended when it needed to. It didn't overdo it, but it was a perfect ending to this show. So what I'm thinking about doing is going back and watching Battlestar Galactica while I'm waiting on third season of House of the Dragon, and just watching that show again. Because let me tell you, it was very well done. And it didn't, it veered away from the original, but not too much, just enough to make the story interesting. So, hey man, I'm not going to hold you. We are at right at 25 minutes for this video. Like I said, I will be doing a reaction video to the last episode, which is episode 8 of season 2 of House of the Dragon. But I just want to get on here and talk about how I felt about the season so far, and how sad I am that I got to wait a year or more to see the third season, where some of the younger, like is it it's not Lucerys, Jacaerys, the son of Rhaenyra, man, he might have a beard by the time we see the third season, which is gonna be weird. But hey, man, I appreciate you watching. This is just a rundown of season 2 of House of the Dragon, as well as season 1, and you know how I feel about how good it was. Both of the season together, folks. Really, I'm gonna give them. I'm not gonna go low, man. I have to give it at least an 8, and anything that is a 8, as far as I'm concerned, is well worth the watch. It isn't when you get until you get down to 6 is where I'm gonna say, no, man. But no, I'm gonna give both of these seasons together. Even though I haven't seen the last episode of this season, I'm gonna give it an average of a 8 so far. So hey, man, I appreciate you watching this. Of course, I'm gonna have a reaction video to the episode that comes on tonight. So hey, man, I appreciate you watching. I'll check you when I see this last episode. Peace.